Go. Right. So, hi Esther, and hi to everybody else who is joining us. My son Rowan and I have done a few videos. Hi Esther, and hi to everybody else who is joining us. One second. My son Rowan and I have Right, so we've done a few videos that on autism, but we wanted to, after what had been happening with a lot of parents contacting me with regard to communication, especially, I think it was good to do a small workshop on communication, because it was something that I learned fairly early on, and something that changed our trajectory significantly. So I'll give you a little background. When Ron was diagnosed with autism, he had, by the time he was diagnosed, he had had months of crying for hours. He would cry for hours every single day. No communication was getting through. That I didn't understand why. I just felt that it was something that I had triggered, maybe as a parent, in that I had left him and went away to study. So I didn't know, I did not understand what was going on. His words, he started to not say things that he used to say. And by the time he was diagnosed, he was left with 3 words, and he would point with his chin, and I was left to try to understand what he was trying to say. Yes, often there would be meltdowns. Well, what I know now were meltdowns. So it was tough to understand. But one of the things that as parents we need to understand is that autism is a condition where there are challenges in not just social interaction, but also communication. So if you try to communicate in a typical way, you may not get anything back. You may not get a reaction or communication. So I have a parent on here who I actually asked her yesterday, because she said she couldn't understand why, and I asked her if she spoke French, and I said something to her, and when she told me no, I said something to her in French, and I asked her why she didn't respond, and she told me, well, because she didn't understand. And that's what it is. We are trying to communicate with these kids the way we want to, but not the way that they understand. One of the first things and the most important lessons that I learned as a parent of a child with autism, or a child who's autistic, is that he is autistic. He isn't alien. He isn't, there isn't anything bad wrong with him. He isn't damaged. I don't need to take him back and get him fixed. You know, he is different. He may have challenges, and sometimes those challenges may be huge, and sometimes they may be tiny challenges, but that he is just different. He is not wrong. He is not less. he is different. So that was one of the most important lessons I learned. And I remember being made to feel as if that was wrong, thinking that way was wrong, and that I was in denial about my child. But if you think of your child as just being different, then you won't try to fix him or her. You will just accept them for who they are. So that said, communication is important, and it's important to understand why they can't appreciate and communicate. So in the typical sense. So there's a book called The Sixth Sense, and I do have a copy, but I just moved, so everything is all over the place. But I will share this book. I will share some bits of this book in the next session. But what it is that we are taught that there are 5 senses, but in fact there are 6. And the 6th sense is the social sense. So it is the sense whereby I can read cues. It is a sense whereby I can appreciate a cut eye, or a side eye, or a curl lip, or as they used to say long ago, a queer mouth, or a sarcastic tone, or when somebody's laughing and they're not laughing with me, they're laughing at me, or my joke is funny, or the right time to tell a joke, or when to put up my hand, or even to put up my hand. So that sense is an important sense that we all pick up as we grow, but autistic individuals don't. And these are things that they need to be taught. Otherwise, you think of them as being inappropriate. For instance, you may be teaching a class, or you may be watching television, and your autistic child may just come and change a channel, or just sit in front of you and ask you an important question, or may just come and say, did you know that the world used to be thought of as flat? And you would want to know, where is this coming from? And it's because as an autistic individual, they have not learned that social sense of what is appropriate, when to, how to, and that kind of thing. So that's another thing that it's not a side, that is part and parcel of communication, part and parcel of effective communication. So those are some of the things that we have to teach them as time goes on. But the first thing I wanted to get into was how we know that autistics communicate differently, but how actually do they communicate? So some of us, if you think about it, think about if you're sitting in a classroom and your teacher's teaching in different ways. Think of different subjects. What would be the subjects that you would be most attracted to? What would be the subjects that you would find would hold your attention best? So some people can listen to a teacher drone on for hours. They might actually be the most alien of us all, because that's a tough one. But some people can actually listen to a teacher's voice and grasp all the information in an auditory manner. Of course, that won't be persons who are hearing impaired or deaf. Some persons prefer to accept information and then rewrite, so or regurgitate, and that's how they learn. Some people prefer to be hands-on, so they look at something, they may look at a video, or they may listen to the teacher, but then they must go away and they must recreate in some way, or they're the ones who are great in the lab, or they're the ones who are fantastic at PE and sport. Those are the kinesthetic learners. And then there are those who don't learn in any of those ways. They are those who are visual learners, and they need to see. It's not just that they need to see the teacher or read lips, but they need to see the information in a different way. Now, I'm actually a visual learner in that I need to draw stuff. So when I'm talking to my patients about diabetes per se, I would draw certain things. So if I'm talking to them about the way diabetes affects the small blood vessels, I'll actually draw a small blood vessel. And when there's an imbalance in oxygen demand and oxygen supply, I actually draw a seesaw. And a lot of people accept and appreciate that information better. And this is how autistics communicate. It's not just how they learn, it is how they communicate. So you can actually tell an autistic, go to the bathroom, and you can say it 50 times, and 50 times out of 50, they may not understand what you're saying. But if you present it with a picture, they may get it right away. So just the same way you will say to me, asseyez-vous, and I wouldn't understand that means to sit down. The same way, if you put a chair and you point to the chair and say, sit please, or you show a child, you show an empty chair and then you show a child on a chair, then they would understand that they need to sit. Now you say it with the words so that eventually you can withdraw the pictures, but pictures aren't a bad thing. Don't ever think that pictures are a bad thing, because at any time in their lives, when they are overwhelmed, you can actually, and you will see when they're overwhelmed, it's when they become anxious. And I'll tell you about how that anxiety is expressed. But at any time when they're anxious, any change that there is, any serious change in their lives, you reinstate the use of pictures, and you will see them calm down. You will see them calm down, and you see them go right back into being just who they are, typical and a typical neurodiverse individual, not someone who is overwhelmed, not someone who is stressed, right? So that said, one of the first pictures that I did with my son, and let me just get my sketch pad. So one of the first pictures I did with my son was I taught him what faces meant. Now, this is my son Rowan. He's now stepped in. Hello. So, check. Okay, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So see how easy it is for me to communicate with Rowan now. But I would have had to say to him, I would have had to get him a chair or point to a chair and bring the chair in, or tell him to bring the chair in. But it's a work in progress, just like it is for any one of us. Okay. I mean, we don't wake up one morning and start counting from 0 to 100 in Spanish. I mean, Sesame Street, we learned how to count by singing. We learned how to, there was a cartoon that showed us, abierto, cerrado. All of that was things that we learned. And that's why Sesame Street was so successful, because we learned those things in different ways. They use music, they use dance, and they used visuals. So different visuals. So that's why Sesame Street was such a successful show, because children learned even with what was presented. They learned, children across the board learned from what was presented. Now, of course, we didn't quite appreciate the neurodiverse spectrum then, and also children with disabilities, and Sesame Street has had to reinvent itself and reimagine and refashion the way it presents its information. But it's a fantastic example on presenting information differently. So one of the first things that I taught Rowan, because he was going to school at the time and he needed to understand and appreciate, because remember, and I say this to both my boys. This is what I tell them. I say to my younger son, because my younger son is neurotypical, and because he sometimes gets distracted. So I say to him, I am not sending you to school to make friends. And I will say to Rowan, I'm sending you to school to make friends. So the reason for that is because school this is my belief, school for a neurodiverse person is a good thing to help them to develop their social interaction and their communication. Okay. So one of the first things I did with Rowan was I taught him faces. And so at the time, Rowan was very obsessed. Now I have to say that I learned as much from Rowan as he learned from me. Okay. And the reason for me saying that is because I watched him and I used what he was obsessed with. So kids who are neurodiverse tend to be obsessed with different things because it's very calming, very soothing. I mean, just the same way some of us may eat chocolate. No, I'm not calling any names. Some of us might eat chocolate every single day because it's calming for us. Some of us may pass on a particular path on the way home because that in itself is calming for us. Okay. The same way. So the same way they have obsessive behaviors that are calming. Okay. So Rowan was, at the time, Rowan was fascinated by Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yep.
And it is not the Thomas the Tank Engine. So what I would recommend is not the Thomas the Tank Engine. Not the Thomas the Tank Engine. That is the moving
the 3D one.
Yeah, not the CGI Thomas the Tank Engine, but the actual
horrible Mattel review.
but actually the stop motion Thomas the Tank Engine. Yeah. Okay. And the reason for that is because it's stop motion, all the faces are frozen until they change. So you have enough time to appreciate what a surprised face looks like, what an angry face looks like, what a happy face looks like. So that Thomas the Tank Engine, I actually recommend that you use Thomas the Tank Engine to teach them faces.
Yeah, and a lot of the changes of faces have are actually really expressive.
Yes. So you can get a cup or a bowl or a saucer, and you draw a circle. And so you start with saying that this is a happy face. So it's blank, and then you draw in the eyes, which should be crinkled up at the side. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. Okay. And you write the word happy below, and you model it on your face, and you get him or her to model it on their face, and you say happy. But you also, I'll tell you why it's important to do this, because they see it in your face. They see it. They're able to understand when you are happy. They're able to understand when you're sad. Now, there was a time when it was felt that persons on the spectrum not only couldn't express, they felt, one, they didn't feel how the neurotypical felt. They didn't express. They didn't know how to express what they felt. Now that's true, but it's true because they don't know what it looks like or what it feels like. So this is why we need to teach them, okay? But also it was felt that they couldn't empathize, and they didn't understand what feelings were, so they couldn't empathize. Well, I can tell you that that's not accurate, because now, because of teaching him facial expressions and him interacting with his peers, he can not only read facial expressions, but he can also read when someone is distressed, happy, disturbed. So for instance, if I give a certain, he will know. So he automatically put his hand on my shoulder and asked me if I'm okay. This is something that was felt to be unheard of by an autistic, but it isn't. It's just that they appreciate information differently, and because they appreciate information differently, it needs to be given to them differently. Okay, so I can stand and watch him and do all kind of, and he would not have understood. But when I show him on paper, and part of doing it on paper, part of doing it is like this, is that he can now take it from time to time. He can take this book of facial expressions and look through them and say happy, sad, angry, and he can do the facial expressions. And over time, he will start to understand and appreciate. And be careful when you get your first angry face, because it may be a moment when you want to be angry, but all you want to do is just scream and shout and celebrate. And he might get a little confused as to why is mommy happy that I'm angry. Okay? You want to jump in and say anything here?
No, not really.
Okay. So I did a happy face.
Oh wait. I just remembered something.
Mm-hmm.
One of the teaching tools you used was a thing called Rooney Foods, right?
Well, I don't remember that at all. Tell me more about it.
Right. It was a kind of a worksheet type thing where you drew a face on multiple assortments of foods. Like you drew an angry face on an orange.
Oh, right. Oh my goodness. Wow. You see? So you see why it's important? Because whilst you might think that it's not making it's not making a dent, hers is that he's appreciating and he's remembered some of the things that I taught him that I didn't even realize, right? So this is an example. Of course, with a sad face, you will draw a tear, or sometimes I would do a sad face without a tear, because you want him to realize that sometimes you can be sad. You don't have to cry to be sad, okay? But so you do a sad. So you do different faces, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you another fantastic thing that happened this year. So this was, like, as I said, one of the first lessons that I had to do with Rowan, right? Teaching him faces. And you want to bring your pad? So Rowan doodles. Now, doodling is a good thing for kids on the spectrum, okay? But Rowan actually has been drawing. He will doodle from time to time. And I sometimes I will take his book and look at his drawings. And Rowan drew a face that was
okay.
He's gonna get it because it is blow mind. And why I say it's blow mind, because remember, I have to teach him happy, sad, angry. I have to teach him everything, and you'll see what facial expressions he came up with. So, any questions so far?
Dr.
I'm not hearing you. You have to unmute.
Oh, sorry about that. How old was Rowan when you started doing the faces?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
My son seems to understand some of my expressions, though.
Right. But remember that, right? So he found it. So this is Rowan's drawings. Okay. So remember what I said, Rowan could not read faces, right?
Okay.
And these are Rowan's drawings. So here it is. Indignant.
Oh, he's good. He
Yes.
did that?
Happy. Yep, he did that. Sad.
Wow.
Confusion, confusion.
That looks
Right?
confused.
Unamused. Unamused. I mean, that unamused has to be one of the hardest. Has to be one of the hardest facial
I
expressions.
think so too.
Yeah, because you're literally, it's really like, and sarcasm is something that they don't get. So for him to know what unamused is, right?
That's
For
awesome.
me, I when I saw this, now look at it, sir. This has been, he is now 18. Okay, so it's been 15 years in the making. This is 15 years. So when you think that it may not make a dent, just keep going on. Just keep pushing through, because it is going to make a dent in his life. It is going to make a change in his life. Okay? So even when you think that it isn't, just continue on. Just continue on. You don't have to care what anybody else says, because often you might be the only person saying it. But you just keep plowing through. Just keep on. Because I tell you, when I saw this, I was just blown away. Blown away. Now, I'll tell you something about autism that I learned. And it's this. And I said this to some extent in the beginning, of that kids who are on the spectrum, kids who are neurodiverse, there's nothing wrong with them. They don't need fixing. They are not broken. They are not bad. But it is this. If we judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then that fish will never succeed. That fish will never succeed. Often, the neurodiverse, often it is we are the ones who are here, and the neurodiverse are all the way into the stratosphere. And we want to box them in, and their minds have already gone past. This week, Rowan actually shared an article on what it was like to be a refugee. And he asked me how to write about it, because he remembers to some extent what it felt like. But I actually said to him, I said, you know what? Use your blog. Because when Rowan was 7, he actually had a blog. The blog started when he was 6. Mm. And he would write. And that story was so well received. And some people didn't even realize that what they were reading about was when he was 7 years old. So often it is that we are trying to fit them into, like, like when you have a shoehorn and you're trying to fit this shoe into this space, that's fit this foot into a shoe that's not the right fit. And that's what we're trying to do. But these kids, those aren't the shoes for them. Those aren't the shoes. Their shoes are way more fancy, more dynamic, more how do I
yeah, I can't really think of any other ones.
Yeah, they just, we want to fit them into a plain old drab shoe, and their shoes are I mean, they're not meant to strut that on that side of the sidewalk. They're meant to strut on the more fantastic side of the sidewalk. That's what I believe. So yeah, So right, so we did faces, and we can touch into faces a little bit more as we go along. If you want me to stop, if you want to ask me any questions, now is the time, so that we because the next thing we're going to do is talk about communication. You are okay, or you need me to I can go on. Any questions? Okay, no questions. Okay, so right. So with regard to communication, firstly, there are a couple of things with regard to the neurodiverse. All kids on the whole, they thrive on routine. So that's why right now things are so difficult, because their normal day, their normal world has changed drastically. So the kids who would have thrived during this time are those who are on routine, much like our kids. So someone said to me a long time ago that teaching him to follow a routine is going to make his life so rigid that he won't be able to enjoy life. But in fact, helping him with a routine helps him to enjoy life, because it minimizes his anxiety, and especially when the routine is visual. Okay, and as time goes on, because the routine is visual, then they are able to internalize that routine, because they see it, they watch it every single day. So from the time you come with a cup of hot chocolate in the night, they know it's bedtime. So in fact, last year when Ron was doing exams, because everything was all topsy-turvy, now Ron is last year he would have been 17 years old, okay? And about to do CSEC. That carried with it a lot of anxiety, of course. They were not in school, so no one knew how things were going to happen. Then there was all this scare of COVID. So there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of change, being at home during the day. It was a lot of anxiety. He's not accustomed to spending that much time with his brother in his space as well, right? That caused a lot of issues. So Rowan's sleep started to suffer. Now, kids on the spectrum tend to get insomnia a lot. Okay, and so one of the things to implement very early on is a bedtime schedule or bedtime routine, but make it visual. So when I actually started back, I think Rowan has his own bedtime routine now. And after, say, 2, 3, 4 days of not sleeping, one night, when no one expected it, he went outside and he made himself a cup of hot chocolate. And you would swear that Rowan took a sedative, because that alone just erased or diminished his anxiety so much that he was able to have a restful night. Is that true? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right?
And now has become a bit of a thing that I do before I go to sleep.
Yeah. So he has internalized this routine so much, he doesn't need it to be up. He's internalized this routine such that he knows that if he's having a struggle, I need to go back into my routine. Oh, I missed this step. And that step was for me to drink my hot chocolate. So there was another, when he was going into Form 4, of course, that's another set of anxiety. And so what I did, and I want you to never think that giving your autistic child a visual is a bad thing or anything to feel ashamed of. Please do not think that, because then they will feel ashamed. Okay? It is communication. End of story. Just the same way I will need to, and better, I'm telling you, at my age now, I need to write things down. Just the same way you need to have your grocery list to remember whatever. This is all it is. It is just a support. It is nothing bad. It is just a support. Okay? So therefore, whenever you see the anxiety, whenever you see the hands flapping, whenever you see the spinning, whenever you see meltdowns, know that something's off. The anxiety level is high. Get the visuals back in. Get the visuals back in from top to bottom. Yes, yes. So get the visuals in. Get in a morning routine, a daytime routine, and a nighttime routine. Get it in. Now, in the beginning, it will be difficult because they're not accustomed to it. But you're not telling him what to do. You are showing him what to do. It's a visual. And every morning and every night, you go to the visual and you say, we are going to do this now. And you say this, then this, then this, then this. And you do that. You come up with your schedule with them, and you will see where after some time, where they may even take it over, and they will be doing it on their own. So at the beginning of Form 4, what I did was, now normally I would have a schedule, but also to help Ron get ready on mornings, what I would do is I drew a picture of Rowan. So it was almost like a stick figure. So I drew this. I drew this picture of Rowan, okay? And what I did next to it was, so next to it, I drew a vest, and boxers, okay? And then I put an arrow there and there, and then after that I put shirt, and his pants, and then I also put the belt. Right? So I did all that, and I also put in shoes and socks. Okay, so the socks and the shoes. Right? Excuse the drawing. Right? So I put all of those in so that he can follow every single morning. So every morning he came out to the bathroom, this was facing him right opposite his room. Okay? So that he could understand that this is how he got ready. So I didn't even have to put these clothes out. He could identify what these are and put his clothes out. And this is from early on. So I didn't get Rowan's clothes for school. I would actually, yes, his uniform was ironed, but I would actually put this would be in the drawer, and he would know where to get his vest, his underwear, and that kind of thing, right? But one morning, I woke up. Now, there's a day called a dress uniform day, which is the first Monday of every month, okay? And I actually overslept that morning. And when I woke up, Rowan was ironing his school uniform. And he was ironing the correct school uniform, which was dress uniform. Okay? So sometimes, and let me tell you something, people can tell me all what they want, they can call me all kind of names for the entire month, because as far as I was concerned, I was walking on air. Okay. So, and that is another thing about this journey. You appreciate all the tiny little victories. The tiny little victories come like like an Oscar, you know, even bigger, you know. So celebrate those. Make them know that what they're doing is fantastic. Celebrate it, because if they you don't celebrate it, who gonna celebrate it? And trust me, what they are doing, what they have to do to accomplish just that one little step is way more than we would have to. So celebrate it. Celebrate it. Okay. So those are the routines. So that's why I said to you, send me your routines so that I can actually show you, work with you to do the routines and prepare a morning routine and a bedtime routine. So a morning routine would entail a morning routine would entail wake up, yawn, breakfast, and after breakfast brush teeth, or whichever which way, and shower. And actually, you want to put stuff in the chat? Man, it's will be in my photos from last year. So Rowan is actually going to put up some photos so that you can appreciate. And you can stick it, the bedtime routine, stick near to the bed. Okay. When you are doing a routine for the afternoon, now I'll give you an example as to why school doesn't get the behavior that we do. And it's because we don't have a routine. We don't have a routine at home. Okay. So school gets the good behavior and we get the bad. All right. Yes. And when I say the bad, I mean we get the meltdowns or whatever. It's because we have the support that they had, we don't have. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for them. It just means that we are the ones who need to step up. Okay. So the routines take a lot out of second guessing for them. They can't be there just not knowing what to do. That for them is a source of anxiety. The routine removes that. Now, there's a thing with routines, especially when they're enjoying what they're doing. You need the transition from one thing to the next, that creates a lot of anxiety. So if I am watching, no, you put it in Zoom. So if I am watching a lot of, join the meeting and then you can share, and then you can ask them to share screen. So one of the things that transition is really important. So if your child is enjoying this time,
what happened there?
right? Sorry about that. Yes. So if your child isn't seriously enjoying what is going on, you're going to have a major meltdown when it's time. Say they're watching TV or they're playing a game or whatever. You're going to have a major meltdown when it's time to go on to the next activity. So what you do is you count them down. So when it's 5 minutes, you show them 5 minutes So you can show them 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can actually say 5 minutes, and then you go 5 minutes, and then you show them the next activity. You show them a picture of the next activity.
What?
And you show 4 minutes, then a picture of the next activity. Right? So you show 4 minutes and you show the next activity. 3, and then the next activity. 2, and that's how you go down. Okay? So you must transition and teach them transitions. And they will learn it in time. It will be easy for them, because they need to do that with regard to school. And you can also teach the school how to do transitions, right? But transitions are important. It's really important to teach them how to transition effectively, because that takes away a whole host of meltdowns. Yes, so any questions on that? Before we go into, maybe we could plan a routine. What do you think? Or would you rather we just deal with all the visuals, and then the next session, or Esther said she's taking notes. So maybe what we can do is the next. So maybe the next session we can actually do, or you could either show me your routines, or we can actually do a sit down and plan a routine, plan a couple of routines. So your homework will be to develop the routine, right? And then we will take it from there. We will sit down and get the visuals. And it's important because the visual could be brushing teeth, okay? So it's important for us to plan the routine, see what the routine is, and then plan it out. No, I don't want any Twix. I'm seeing somebody eating Twix. Right, so I want you to look at the picture on screen. This is Rowan's old, and we actually tore this down. So this is his old routine when, now he would have had a different routine when he was younger. One which I put pictures and words, and one which was a little bit different, but I have quite a few routines, but this one was because of time, it was easier for me, I think, and for him to just look at it, because he knew what he was doing. Okay, he understood what all of this meant, and so he knew that when he was showered, he would put on, this is his deodorant, and he would put lotion on his skin. Okay, and he would wear a vest, so he had to brush his teeth. He would wear a vest and his blue shirt, or he would wear a t-shirt and his white long sleeve shirt.
White t-shirts on. Well, I wear on Tuesdays.
Right.
You know,
for scouts. See, I showed you the socks and the sneakers and his underwear, pants and belt. Okay, so this, from this, he knew that when he had dress uniform day, that this uniform needed ironing, and he ironed his uniform. Okay, but there are steps. So that's why I'm saying that it took us some time to get to this. Okay. Any more? Okay. If you go into the, you have to come on from this. Right, so I'm going to show you some other pictures. Of routines. So, right, so right, Right. So this is one that I did. So this is what I was saying to you, that I did it a little bit differently for this girl. One, wake up. So I did it this way so that that they would understand order. Okay. So first, wake up. 2, eat breakfast. 3, shower. 4, dry off. And then you put on vest, underwear, and then your school uniform or whatever it is that you were wearing. And I also put in comb and brush teeth, lotion, deodorant. Okay? So it's important to do it in order so that they understand order. First, then. Okay? This also helps them when they have to transition, when they're following a timetable and they have to transition, because they realize that I can't wake up forever. After I wake up, I have to move on to the next thing, which is to eat breakfast. After breakfast, I can't take forever to eat breakfast, because after breakfast, I need to shower. Okay? So it also teaches them that there are things after, there are things coming, and that they need to do things in a timely fashion. So it helps them, it helps prepare them for timetables further down the road. So you see, you are building, by starting with all of this, you are building on what's going to happen, or you're building a framework for what's going to happen later on in life. Right? So, right. So, I want you to give me a problem that you've been having, and let's see how we can, let's see what we can, how we can address it.
I can't get Ruben to stop grinding his teeth. He does it really loudly all the time, and it feels like his teeth are gonna fall out when he does it.
Well, first thing what I would recommend is that check and see if he has sinusitis or allergic rhinitis.
He
Because that might
does.
be,
He was born with the adenoids.
Now, I don't want to toot my own horn, but as a doctor, but
Terrible.
that's the reason. That's the reason. And unfortunately, until then, now if he was born in 1960 something, 50 something, 70 something, he'd get a whole dose of Zentel a long time. But but unfortunately, yeah, it is his allergies, and so the way to help him is to let him use some steam, and that will help to flush the to help it to drain.
Okay.
So some steam inhalations will help a lot. But yeah, it's that and the Sahara, this is really, really bad. So
How do I get him to stay in front of the steam? Because it's a new thing, and anything new, he's kind of reluctant.
Right. So this is where we are going to talk about social stories. So we will come to that, because we will do social stories.
Okay.
But you can actually draw him a bowl with steam and draw him over it, and a towel.
Oh, okay.
And you say steam, and you can do this. Okay. So you can well, is it the water that he likes in the toothbrushes? Or does he shake it, or does he play with the bristles? Okay. Do you think it's because of water? It might be the sensation of water. It might be the spray from the toothbrush. But you can actually draw you can draw something and show him what the toothbrush is for. It isn't wet. Okay, so you can just draw the toothbrush and show him what is it for. But I would just get him his own toothbrush and let him just play with it, because there are some battles that need to be fought, and there's some that. But then we need to. So we need to. We need to do a story, a social story, showing him where toothbrushes live. Toothbrushes live in in by the sink, and they are for the mouth. They're not for the hand. They're not for shaking. So we need to do a social story about that. It's going to take some time because there's something in that sensation that is calming him. But maybe, just maybe, if we implement other things in place, if we put the visuals in, he may have the less anxiety and may need less to do that shaking of the toothbrush. Because sometimes a lot of behavior that we see are triggered by something. So one thing I want you to two things. Eye contact is overrated. Okay, right now I am speaking to myself on the screen, but I'm not actually having eye contact with any of you per se. Okay, eye contact is overrated, and we know that autistic individuals feel anxiety when there is eye contact. So if you try to force that, what is going to happen to their anxiety? It's going to skyrocket. It's like somebody having a phobia in the dark, and they go into a bathroom or something, and you take the light off. Okay, so don't try not to force those things. Try to communicate and get them to understand, but don't force it. You have anything to add about that?
Well, no, but I think that might have been one of the reasons why I was kind of afraid of talking to people one-on-one.
Mm.
But I didn't really consider the eye contact thing.
Yeah, but I mean, Rowan is called to speak at schools and stuff, and Rowan actually sometimes will stare the audience down, and I'm usually in awe because I know how he was with eye contact. So eye contact is severely overrated. Okay. It's important to make mention of the fact that everything you do now is a stepping stone to what will unfold later, but also that you are also helping your child to understand their own triggers of anxiety. Hand flap, the one thing about autism that I was in denial about, I will not lie, was anxiety. But because when I was younger, I had what I now know is PTSD after my grandfather died. And I suffered with a lot of anxiety for years. So when I was told by Dr. Dick that it's the anxiety and they have anxiety, I immediately put up a block. I put up a wall. I did not want that for my child. But you see, me not wanting it doesn't mean that it's going to go away for him, It doesn't. If my mother makes the best pot of pilau, but I'm allergic to pilau, she could make the best pot of pilau. If I eat it, I could still get an allergic reaction, right? So whatever triggers their anxiety, either we shield them from it for the rest of their lives, or we teach them how to manage their anxiety. Yeah. So we have to decide which one we want to do. Because I'll give you an example. I remember when we were living in India, and they used to have these kids' parties that were massive. You can ask for one, and loud. And
probably louder than some parties we have here.
Exactly. And we're not talking about house parties, eh? No, those were house parties, but some of the parties were massive. And
these were for children, like little children. Yeah.
Because when Rowan, one of the biggest parties we went to, Rowan, was I think 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But I remember Rowan having a meltdown outside of a party and him not wanting to go. And to be honest, I really could have said, let's go home. But there was something in me that at that point, I said to myself, if I leave my child to feel that, to think that every time, no, it's his prerogative if he feels anxious to say something, say something. But if at the slightest chance that he feels anxiety, he hightails it in the opposite direction, then he won't do anything that makes him uncomfortable. And growth is uncomfortable. And that's a little bit of me, because there were things that I did not do as a young person because of the amount of anxiety that was involved. And so I didn't want that for him. I wanted him to be able to have everything and then make the decision. But if he's shielded, then I'm taking away the ability for him to make that decision on his own. Okay? So putting these things in place also will help them to manage their anxiety on their own when they get older, right? So eventually we actually did go to the party, but one parent came outside and she said to me, if that was my child, I would take him home right now. And of course I felt bad, because she made me feel as if I was not a good parent. But this is another thing that you should bear in mind. The journey of an autistic parent, or the parent of an autistic child, is often a lonely one, because you are either ridiculed or laughed at, because you're trying to do right by your child. You are in denial, but also because you are trying to do right by your child, you're a bad parent. So your back needs to get like a duck's, basically, right? But I actually said to Rowan, I made a deal with him, and I said, let's go in for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. If you are too overwhelmed in those 5 minutes, I'll take you out. Now, granted, I did not understand how severely he was affected by sound and that kind of thing. Those things came after. So had I to do it again, I would have taken him in with headphones, but I didn't know. And to be honest, I was still learning. So if I had to do it again, I would have taken him in, but with headphones. Okay. But this is a few years ago. Ron asked me to go to the school party.
Yeah.
Right? School had a party, and Ron went on his own. He didn't go with me. I've never been to a school party on my own, by the way. That's another story. But Rowan went on his own, and he was having a good time. He had a great time. So much so that his peers actually messaged me and said, Auntie, I saw Rowan and he was dancing, and so the little steps that we make now, those steps build and become giant steps. And when they are gigantic, man, they will just put those wings on and soar. So before we wrap up, the last thing I want to do is I want to share a social story with you, and I want us to get. I'm giving you the social story as homework. So you're going to read it, and you're going to read it with your child, and I want you to appreciate their interaction and see if the visuals help in understanding. Okay. Right. So I will actually send you. I will share that social story with you. But Any questions? No questions. Okay, so I really hope, I'm glad. I really hope I was able to just shed some light to start. And I want you to know one thing. This journey, even though it can be lonely at times, you are now, because of reaching out, you are now part of a village of love and support. So you are not alone. Rowan, do you want to give any? Rowan has all these nice little anecdotes that he tends to give to motivate. You have anything that you want to share?
Oh, well, I'm kind of, oh, yes. I do remember this quote I heard a long time ago. The largest oak tree was once a little nut that held its ground.
Yeah. So right now it's a little nut. But this is the oak tree that it can grow into. You know, and I will actually end with a quote from Rowan. Picture your life is like Mount Everest or something, and you're climbing up Mount Everest. What would you put in that backpack? You put your clothing, your food, your essentials, your water and stuff. But what you always need in life is inspiration. We're all at that one point, that one hurdle that we just can't get over. And what we need is the inspiration of someone special. Rose said that I was that person for him, but he and Adrian, his younger brother, are that for me. And you are that for your kids, just like they are that for you. And do not forget that. Yeah? See you next time.
Bye.